Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Wednesday, November 18th. Today, the Universal Church celebrates the memorial of the dedication of the Basilica of St. Peter and the dedication of the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls. As many of you know, we celebrate St. Peter and St. Paul jointly on June 29th. So the churches that honor these two great saints also are celebrated on the same day here in November. The gospel passage for today's memorial shares with us a powerful experience of St. Peter. This selection comes to us from the 14th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel. It reads, "After the crowd had eaten their fill, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when it was evening, he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, he came toward them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. 'It is a ghost,' they said, and they cried out in fear. At once Jesus spoke to them. 'Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid.' Peter said to him in reply, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' He said, 'Come.' Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened and began to sink and cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, 'O you of little faith, why did you doubt?' After they got into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did him homage, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" For anyone who's been blessed to be able to go to Rome, the sheer size and beauty of the Basilica of St. Peter and the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls are beyond description. I've been blessed to see both of these amazing churches, and I can tell you these buildings gave me true amazement. The time, donations, skill, and commitment to build these houses of God truly helped me to deepen my faith. As I prayed in these buildings over my visits, I felt as if I was closer to God by being there. And I also felt a connection to the millions and millions of fellow pilgrims who have come to these churches to pray and reflect on their faith in Jesus Christ. And I'd also have to say that these churches gave me hope, because if these buildings can endure the challenges and difficulties of time, the church undoubtedly will continue to endure as well. So in our gospel passage today, we hear about St. Peter's act of faith. So it is truly right that a major basilica is built in his honor. But in this specific passage, the experienced fisherman got out of a perfectly good boat to walk towards Jesus on the water because of his desire to be close to him. But as we heard, the wind caused him to be frightened and to have doubt. And as a result of his change in conviction, he began to sink. And I have talked about Jesus' response to St. Peter in this particular passage in a previous daily reflection. But this passage reminded me of a different reality because of the dedication of the basilicas this day. As the basilicas of St. Peter and St. Paul inspired me, it's my prayer that any church we see as we move about this world could be a sign of hope. Yes, we're facing many strong winds that are causing us to question, have concern, and even doubt in these dark days. But there are signs and symbols around us to help us to stay focused on Jesus Christ. One practice that I do in my life and many others as well is that I sign myself with the cross every time I pass a church. And this action helps me to remind myself that God is in the presence of this world, that his loving action is working. Now, this small act, especially if I'm mindful in the moment of doing it, always helps me to reorient myself in the midst of my travels and also just when I'm out and about. Because these small reminders can be so powerful so that we can truly stay focused on Christ in our day-to-day life. So as St. Peter in our gospel today had the desire to be close to Christ. We need to challenge ourselves to maintain such a desire in our lives as well. And there are reminders all around us, brothers and sisters, that can help us with this reality. Again, we just need to keep our hearts and eyes open to these realities. St. Peter, St. Paul, and Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.